The email arrived on a Tuesday morning, and I knew before opening it that it would hurt. My mother only used her formal email signature, Vivian Hart Ashford, President, Manhattan Society League, when she wanted to remind me of the distance between us. Dear Celeste, regarding the annual Winter Gala on December 15th, your father and I have decided it would be best if you did not attend this year. The guest list is quite exclusive, and we feel your current circumstances would not reflect well on our family's standing. We trust you understand. Regards, Mother. I sat there in my Brooklyn apartment, staring at those cold words on my laptop screen, and felt something inside me finally break. Not my heart that had cracked years ago. This was different. This was the last thread of hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd eventually see me as something more than their greatest disappointment. I was 28 years old, and my parents still treated me like a stain they couldn't scrub out. Let me take you back, so you understand how we got here. I grew up in a penthouse overlooking Central Park, but I might as well have been invisible. My parents, Richard and Vivian Ashford, collected things: art, real estate, social connections, and children in that order. My brother, Preston, was their masterpiece. 4 years older than me, handsome, charming, Harvard educated, and currently climbing the ranks at Goldman Sachs. He was everything they wanted to display to their world. Then there was me. I wasn't ugly exactly. I just wasn't. Striking. Brown hair where Preston had golden blonde. Average height where he was tall. Quiet where he commanded rooms. I preferred books to cocktail parties, writing to networking, and substance to status. These were unforgivable sins in the Ashford household. Celeste, darling, you really should make more of an effort, my mother would say, eyeing my simple dress at family dinners while Preston's girlfriend, always a new one, always stunning, sparkled beside him. First impressions are everything in our circle, never my circle. I was always a guest in their world, tolerated, but never truly welcomed. The favoritism wasn't subtle. Preston got the corner office internship at 16. I got lectures about my unrealistic career dreams. He got a BMW for graduation. I got a stern talk about fiscal responsibility when I asked for help with college textbooks. When he brought home failing grades, it was the professors didn't appreciate his genius. When I brought home straight A's, it was expected, nothing special. But the worst part, they weren't cartoonish villains. They didn't scream or hit. They were just cold, dismissive. They attended Preston's lacrosse games and forgot my school plays. They bragged about his accomplishments at dinner parties while introducing me with, "Oh, and this is our daughter Celeste. She's figuring things out." I spent my childhood trying to earn their pride. I excelled academically, won writing competitions, volunteered at 3 different charities. Nothing worked. Preston could stumble drunk into a family brunch and get knowing chuckles. I could cure cancer and get a distracted, "That's nice, dear." I remember one particular incident when I was 14. I'd won a statewide writing competition, first place out of over 3,000 entries. The prize was a scholarship to a prestigious summer writing workshop and a publication in a literary journal. I was so excited. I'd finally done something they'd have to acknowledge. I came home with the certificate, practically vibrating with anticipation. My parents were in the living room with some of their society friends, cocktails in hand, discussing some charity auction. "Mom, Dad," I interrupted, clutching my certificate. "I won the state writing competition. First place in the entire state." My mother glanced over, barely breaking her conversation. "That's wonderful, dear. Put it on the fridge." The fridge. Like a child's drawing. But then Preston walked in, still in his lacrosse uniform, and mentioned he'd scored a goal during practice. Not even a game practice. My father stood up immediately. "That's my boy. We should celebrate. Who wants to go out for steaks?" They all went. I wasn't invited. I stood there in that enormous penthouse, holding my certificate, and something crystallized in my young mind. It didn't matter what I achieved. I would never be enough for them. Not because I was failing, but because I wasn't Preston. That night, I started writing in secret. A journal at first, then stories. Places where I could be seen, valued, understood, even if only by myself. There were other moments, countless others. My 16th birthday fell on the same day as one of Preston's college campus tours. They took him to Yale for the weekend and left me at home with the housekeeper. My high school graduation, where I was valedictorian, they arrived 20 minutes late because my mother had a hair appointment. The summer I worked at an animal shelter and saved enough to donate $1,000 to their operations, my father asked if I was being financially responsible. Every achievement was minimized. Every milestone was overshadowed. Every part of me that didn't fit their vision of success was quietly, systematically ignored. College was my escape. I went to Columbia, not Harvard, which was apparently another disappointment, and studied literature and creative writing. My parents attended graduation, but left before the ceremony ended. Preston had a business lunch they needed to drive him to. That's when I made a decision that changed everything. I started writing under a pseudonym, not because I was ashamed, but because I wanted something that was entirely mine, something they couldn't touch or taint or compare to Preston's achievements. I poured every ounce of pain, observation, and emotion into a novel about family dysfunction in Manhattan's elite society. I called it Gilded Cages. It took me 2 years of working as a barista while writing at night, 2 years of living in a cramped studio in Washington Heights, eating ramen, ignoring my mother's passive-aggressive comments about my little hobby, 2 years of Preston's condescending still playing writer. Every Thanksgiving, the writing process itself was cathartic and painful. Every word I wrote felt like excavating old wounds. I'd sit in my tiny apartment at 2 in the morning, tears streaming down my face, channeling every dismissal, every comparison, every moment of invisibility into my characters. The protagonist wasn't me, not exactly, but she understood what it meant to be unseen by the people who should love you most. I sent the manuscript to 47 agents. 46 rejected it. Some were kind, saying it wasn't right for their list. Others were brutal, calling it too niche or too bitter. Each rejection felt like my parents all over again, telling me I wasn't good enough. But agent number 47 loved it. Her name was Diane Chen. And she called me on a random Tuesday afternoon. "Celeste," she said, "I couldn't put this book down. You've captured something real here, something important. Let me sell this for you." 6 months later, we had a publishing deal. Not with a major house, a small independent press that believed in literary fiction. The advance was $12,000, which felt like a fortune when I'd been living on minimum wage. Then it happened. A small publisher took a chance on my book. It came out quietly, no fanfare. I didn't tell my family. What was the point? 3 months later, Gilded Cages hit the New York Times bestseller list. 6 months after that, it was #1. A year later, I'd sold 2 million copies, been translated into 37 languages, and sold the film rights for an amount that made my hands shake when I signed the contract. My pseudonym, DC Sterling, was being compared to Donna Tartt and Curtis Sittenfeld. I was a millionaire before I turned 26, and my parents had absolutely no idea. I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I tell them? Why not throw it in their faces? Because I knew them. They would have tried to take credit. Vivian would have suddenly been so supportive of my artistic daughter. Richard would have networked my success into his own social currency. Preston would have felt threatened and made it competitive. They would have contaminated something pure. So I stayed quiet. I used a lawyer for everything, kept my identity airtight, did interviews via video with my face obscured and my voice modulated. I became one of publishing's most successful mysteries. With my money, I did something that felt right. I created a foundation, also anonymous, that gave scholarships to kids from dysfunctional families, funded arts programs in underprivileged schools, and supported domestic violence shelters. I lived modestly, still in Brooklyn, still writing in coffee shops, still distant from my family's world. I saw them 4 times a year: Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, and my father's birthday. Each visit was an exercise in endurance. They never asked about my life. My mother would mention Preston's latest promotion within 5 minutes. My father would talk about his golf handicap. I was furniture that occasionally spoke. Then came last Christmas, 11 months before that email. We were at their penthouse. Preston had brought his new fiancée, Kimberly, a 24-year-old publicist with perfect teeth and impressive connections. My mother was practically vibrating with excitement about the spring wedding being planned. And Celeste, my mother said, almost as an afterthought, "Are you still doing that barista thing?" I'd quit the caf 3 years ago. "No, Mom, I'm writing full-time now." Preston snorted into his scotch. "Someone's actually paying you for that?" "I do all right," I said quietly. "Well," my father chimed in, "it's good to have hobbies, but perhaps you should consider something more stable. Preston could probably get you an entry-level position at his firm. Administrative work, nothing fancy, but it's a start. I was making more money than Preston, than both my parents combined, actually, and they were offering me a pity job answering phones. I'm fine, Dad. Really? My mother sighed. We worry about you, darling. You're almost 30, unmarried, no real career. We just want you to be settled, successful, like your brother. That night, alone in my old childhood bedroom that had been redecorated twice since I'd left, I cried for the last time over my parents. I decided I was done hoping for their approval, but I wasn't prepared for that email 10 months later. Your current circumstances would not reflect well on our families. Standing. My current circumstances. They meant my life, my existence. I wasn't successful enough, polished enough, connected enough to be seen at their precious gala. This wasn't just any party. The annual Winter Gala was the event my mother had organized for 15 years, raising millions for various charities, though mostly it was a showcase for Manhattan's elite to display their wealth and networks. It was held at the Plaza, attended by New York's most influential families, and this year's cause was arts education for underprivileged youth, arts education. The thing my foundation had been funding for 3 years. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd attended every gala since I was 18, usually relegated to a back table with the other unimportant children of important people. But I'd been there. This was the first time I'd been openly uninvited. The excuse was flimsy. What had changed? Nothing about me, but something about them. I did some digging through social media, called a former classmate whose mother was on the planning committee. The truth came out. Preston was being honored as one of New York's rising stars under 35. The event was partially about celebrating him, and my parents didn't want their disappointing daughter anywhere near the spotlight that should shine solely on their golden boy. That's when I stopped crying and started planning. See, here's what my parents didn't know. My foundation, the Sterling Foundation, named after my pseudonym, was the gala's largest donor this year. Anonymous, of course. I'd contributed $500,000. The second largest donor had given $100,000. I was funding their party, the party I was banned from. I sat in my apartment for 3 days thinking, I could have done nothing, could have let it go, stayed home, continued my separate life. The mature thing would have been to accept that my parents would never change and move on. But you know what? I was tired of being mature, tired of being invisible, tired of watching Preston collect praise for mediocrity while my actual achievements went unrecognized. It was time my parents learned exactly who their disappointing daughter had become. I made a call to my publisher, then to my attorney, then to the gala's event coordinator, who nearly dropped the phone when she realized who was calling. Miss Sterling, she breathed. It's an honor. How can I help you? I'd like to attend the gala, I said, in person, but I need it to remain confidential until the right moment. Can we arrange that? Of course, but forgive me, your identity has been so carefully guarded. Are you sure? I thought about that email, about 28 years of being second best, about Preston's smirk, and my mother's sighs, and my father's disappointment. I'm sure, I said. I have some specific requests for the evening, anything. You're our biggest supporter. Whatever you need. I smiled. Let me tell you what I have in mind. The night of December 15th was cold and clear. I stood across the street from the plaza, watching Manhattan's elite arrive in their limousines and town cars, dripping in diamonds and designer labels. My heart hammered against my ribs. I wasn't dressed like them. I wore a simple black dress I'd bought at Bloomingdale's, expensive enough to fit in, modest enough not to draw attention. My hair was pulled back, minimal makeup. I looked like what I'd always been at these events, forgettable. That was intentional. Part of me wanted to turn around, to go home, stay anonymous, keep my life separate and safe. What I was about to do would change everything. My privacy would be gone. My family would be humiliated. The careful walls I'd built between VC, Sterling, and Celeste Ashford would crumble. But then I thought about that email, about my mother's cold dismissal of my current circumstances, about 28 years of being told, in 1,000 subtle ways, that I wasn't enough. I'd spent my whole life protecting their feelings, staying quiet so they wouldn't be uncomfortable, hiding my success so they wouldn't feel threatened, making myself smaller so they could feel bigger. Not anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel, the event coordinator. Everything's set. Back entrance is clear. Are you ready? Was I ready? To blow up the careful anonymity I'd maintained for years? To potentially damage my privacy forever? To hurt my parents in front of their entire social world? I thought about little Celeste, age 7, watching Preston get applause for a participation trophy while her spelling bee championship went unmentioned. About teenage Celeste, crying in her room because her parents forgot her birthday but threw Preston a massive graduation party. About adult Celeste, successful and wealthy and still invisible. I'm ready, I texted back. I entered through the service entrance, where Rachel met me with a nervous smile. Miss Sterling, it's such an honor. I can't believe we've been working with you all this time without knowing. Your work has meant so much to so many people. It felt strange, hearing genuine admiration. Thank you. Is everything in place? Exactly as you requested. Your table, the presentation order, the announcement all set. Though I have to ask, your parents don't know? No one knows except you, my lawyer, and my publisher. She winced. This is going to be quite a shock. That's the idea. She led me through back hallways to the grand ballroom. The event was already underway. Cocktail hour, hundreds of guests mingling beneath crystal chandeliers, soft classical music playing. Through a service door, I could see them all. The Vanderbilts, the Rockefellers, old money and new money and social climbers, all pretending they were there for charity instead of status. And there were my parents. My mother looked stunning in a midnight blue gown, her silver hair perfectly coiffed, holding court with a group of society matrons. My father stood with a cluster of businessmen, probably discussing markets or golf, and Preston, Golden Preston, laughing with his beautiful fiancée, both of them glowing under the attention. They looked so happy, so proud, so complete without me. Miss Sterling? Rachel touched my arm gently. Your table is number 7, toward the front, but not conspicuous. We've seated you with some supporters of arts education, college professors, foundation directors, people who'll appreciate who you are. Thank you. And the other thing? I've arranged it. When the time comes, I'll give you a signal. I nodded and slipped into the ballroom. For the first hour, I was invisible, just as I'd always been at these things. I sat at my table with kind, passionate people who talked about literature and education and making a difference. They had no idea who I was, just another donor's representative or perhaps a nonprofit worker. I watched my family from across the room. Watched Preston work the crowd like a politician. My mother introduce him to everyone important. My father beam with pride. I could almost hear their thoughts. This is our son, our legacy, our success story. Dinner was served. Speeches began. A board member welcomed everyone. A student from a scholarship program spoke about how arts education changed her life. My mother took the podium to thunderous applause, talking about the importance of giving back and nurturing the next generation of artists. The hypocrisy burned, knowing she'd told me 100 times that writing was impractical. Then came the donor recognition. We're so grateful to all our supporters, the board member announced, particularly our bronze donors who gave between $10,000 and $50,000. Names were read. Families stood, smiled, accepted applause. I recognized most of them friends of my parents, Preston's colleagues, people I'd seen at a dozen of these events, our silver donors, who gave between $50,000 and $100,000. More names, more applause. My parents' names were called. They donated $75,000. They stood, waving graciously, soaking in the recognition. Of course they had. They never missed an opportunity to advertise their generosity. And we have one gold donor this year, the board member continued. Someone who gave between $100,000 and $250,000. The Morrison Family Trust. The Morrisons stood. More applause. I saw my mother's tight smile. She hated being outdonated. Now, the board member said, his voice changing, becoming warmer, we come to something unprecedented. This year, we received a donation so generous, so transformative, that we've had to create a new category. A platinum donation of $500,000. Gasps rippled through the room. Heads turned. People whispered, who could afford such generosity? This donor has chosen to remain anonymous for the past 3 years, funding scholarships, arts programs, and educational initiatives across the country. The Sterling Foundation has changed countless lives, including many of the students in our programs tonight. I saw recognition flash across some faces. VC, Sterling's name meant something in literary circles, though my identity remained unknown. My mother looked puzzled. She'd probably heard the name but couldn't place it. Tonight, the board member continued. For the first time ever, the founder of the Sterling Foundation has agreed to reveal their identity. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to introduce you to the author, VC Sterling, whose novel Gilded Cages has sold over 5 million copies worldwide and whose foundation has donated over $2 million to arts education. Rachel appeared at my elbow, nodding. This was it. I stood. The spotlight found me immediately. Hundreds of faces turned toward me, some curious, some shocked, some awed. I walked toward the stage on shaking legs, very aware of my family's eyes on me. I didn't look at them yet. I couldn't. I climbed the steps to the podium and accepted the microphone with trembling hands. The room was absolutely silent. Thank you, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Many of you don't know me, which has been intentional. I chose anonymity because I wanted my work to speak for itself, without the complications of identity or background. I paused, gathering courage for what came next. But some of you do know me. I grew up in Manhattan. I attended Avery Prep. I've been to quite a few of these galas over the years, usually sitting in the back, usually invisible. Now I looked at them, at my father's confused expression, at my mother's frozen smile, at Preston's dawning horror. My real name is Celeste Ashford. You could have heard a pin drop. My mother's face went white. My father grabbed the table for support. Preston's mouth opened, closed, opened again like a fish out of water. For those of you who know my family, I continued, my voice growing stronger. This might come as a surprise. I'm the daughter who didn't quite measure up. The one who chose writing over finance, Brooklyn over the Upper East Side, substance over status. The disappointment. Celeste, my mother started to stand, but my father pulled her down. They looked panicked, humiliated, caught. 6 years ago, I wrote a book. It became successful, very successful. I've used that success to fund the kind of education I believe in, one that values creativity, expression, and giving opportunities to kids who are told they're not good enough. I saw some audience members glancing between me and my parents, putting pieces together. The society gossip mills would be working overtime tonight. I was supposed to be here tonight anyway, I said, letting a hint of bitterness creep in. But earlier this week, I received an email from my mother uninviting me. Apparently, my current circumstances would not reflect well on the family's standing. Gasps, whispers. My mother looked like she wanted to disappear. So I want to thank the Ashford family, I said, making direct eye contact with my parents. Thank you for teaching me that approval doesn't come from others, it comes from knowing your own worth. Thank you for showing me that success isn't measured by the right last name or the right connections, but by the impact you make and the lives you touch. And thank you for pushing me to create something entirely my own, something you could never take credit for or diminish. The room erupted in applause. Standing ovation. People I didn't know were on their feet, clapping, some with tears in their eyes. The professors at my table were beaming. Even some of my parents' friends looked moved or at least deeply entertained by the drama. My family sat frozen. Preston's fiancé looked confused. My father's face was red. My mother was crying. Though whether from shame or anger, I couldn't tell. I wasn't done. The Sterling Foundation will continue funding arts education, I said, as the applause died down. Because every kid deserves to be seen. Every talent deserves to be nurtured. And every person deserves to be valued for who they are, not who their family wants them to be. More applause. I stepped away from the podium, handed back the microphone, and walked off the stage. I should have left then. Made a dramatic exit. But I'd waited 28 years for this moment, and I wanted to see their faces up close. I walked directly to their table. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a napkin, trying to maintain composure. My father wouldn't look at me. Preston stared like I was a stranger. Around us, people were watching. Some pretended to be interested in their dessert, but every ear was tuned to what would happen next. The Ashford family drama was now the entertainment portion of the evening. Celeste, my mother whispered, her voice hoarse. Why didn't you tell us? I laughed, actually laughed. Tell you? Mom, I've been trying to tell you who I am my entire life. You just never listened. But 5 million copies? A foundation? How did we not know? Because you never asked. In 6 years, you never once asked about my writing beyond calling it a hobby. You assumed I was failing because I wasn't. Preston, my mother's carefully applied makeup was starting to run. She looked older suddenly, fragile. We always thought we were trying to help you, to push you towards something stable, something secure. We didn't want you to struggle. No, I said, my voice harder than I'd ever used with them. You wanted me to be embarrassed into becoming someone else. Someone you could show off at parties. Someone who fit your idea of success. My father finally looked up, his face flushed with anger or shame, I couldn't tell which. This is inappropriate, Celeste. Making a scene at your mother's event. Airing family business in front of our friends, your friends, I interrupted. Not mine. Never mine. And you know what's inappropriate, Dad? Uninviting your own daughter from a charity event she's funding because you're ashamed of her, a woman at the next table gasped. The secret was out, not just that I was VC, Sterling, but that my parents had banned me from an event I'd bankrolled. My brother finally found his voice. This is insane. You wrote Gilded Cages? That book is about, he stopped. Realization hitting. That book is about us. Not specifically, I said calmly, but it's about families like ours. Families that value appearance over authenticity. Families that create golden children and scapegoats. Families that damage their kids in the pursuit of status. How dare you embarrass us like this? My father hissed, finding his voice. In front of everyone we know. This is vindictive, cruel. Cruel? I felt my anger rising. You banned me from this event because I wasn't successful enough to be seen with you. You spent my entire childhood making me feel worthless. And I'm the cruel one? We never meant, my mother started. You absolutely meant it. I cut her off. Every dismissal, every comparison to Preston, every time you forgot about me while celebrating him. You meant all of it. You just never thought I'd amount to anything that would make you regret it. People at nearby tables were absolutely riveted. Not even pretending not to listen anymore. Preston leaned forward. And for a second, I saw something that might have been genuine emotion on his face. Celeste. I didn't know. I didn't know they treated you so differently. I thought you were just sensitive. You thought wrong, I said. But that's okay. You were their project, their masterpiece. I don't blame you for being loved. I just refused to keep suffering because I wasn't. My mother was crying harder now. We did love you. We do love you. We didn't understand you. You were so different from us, from what we knew. We didn't know how to value me. I finished. How to see me. How to be proud of me unless I became exactly what you wanted. Silence. I'm leaving now, I said, straightening my shoulders. I have interviews tomorrow. My identity is going public, which means my life is about to change dramatically. But I want you to know something. I didn't do this just for revenge. I did it because I'm done hiding. Done being ashamed of who I am. Done waiting for your approval. I turned to go, then stopped. Oh, and Preston? Congratulations on your Rising Star Award. I'm sure you'll do great things, but maybe try to notice the people around you. Try to see them. It makes a difference. I walked away from that table, through the crowd of staring strangers, past the whispers and the shocked faces, out of the grand ballroom and into the cold December night. My phone was already exploding with messages. My publisher. You did it. Are you okay? My agent. Every news outlet in America wants an interview. Rachel. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen, and one from a number I didn't recognize. This is Preston. Can we talk? Really? Talk? I stood on the steps of the plaza, watching cars pass, feeling the winter wind on my face. I felt lighter, freer, like I'd been carrying a weight my whole life and had finally set it down. Was I cruel? Maybe. Did my parents deserve that public humiliation? I don't know. They certainly hurt me publicly enough times, in smaller, quieter ways, that no one noticed. But here's what I do know. I spent 28 years making myself smaller so they could feel bigger. I dimmed my light so theirs could shine. I hid my success because I was afraid they'd contaminate it or claim it or diminish it. No more. The next morning, my face was everywhere. VC, Sterling revealed, Manhattan heiress, turned literary sensation. Best-selling author exposes family drama at elite gala. The invisible Ashford daughter no one saw coming. My phone rang constantly. Interview requests. Congratulations from other authors. Messages from readers who'd connected with Gilded Cages and now understood why it felt so authentic. And 3 emails from my family. My father's was brief. We need to discuss this situation as a family. This public spectacle has damaged our reputation. We expect discretion going forward. Still trying to control the narrative. Still worried about reputation over reconciliation. I deleted it. My mother's was longer, more emotional. Celeste, I've been awake all night. I've been crying all night. I never realized how much we hurt you. I always thought we were pushing you to be better, to be successful. But I see now that we never saw the success you'd already achieved. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if I can, but I want to try. Can we please talk? I saved that one. I wasn't ready to respond, but I saved it. Preston's was the most unexpected. Hey, Celeste. I read your book last night. I'd never read it before. I know, ironic. I'm sorry for being a smug asshole at every family dinner. I'm sorry for not seeing how they treated you differently. I was so focused on being what they wanted that I never questioned whether what they wanted was right. You were always braver than me. You chose yourself. I'm proud of you, even if I never said it. Can we get coffee sometime? Just us. No parents. No performance. I'd like to know my sister. I cried, reading that one. 3 weeks later, I met Preston at a small cafe in the West Village. He showed up in jeans and a t-shirt, not his usual designer suit. He looked nervous. So, he said, sitting down across from me, "You're kind of a big deal." I smiled. "So are you. Rising star under 35. Yeah, about that." He stirred his coffee absently. "That whole night was supposed to be my moment, and you completely stole the show." My heart sank. "Here it comes, thank God," he finished. "I was so tired of performing for them. Watching you up there, just being honest, saying what you really felt. I don't think I've ever been that brave. Preston, I'm not a good person, Celeste. I've coasted on privilege and looks and connections my whole life. I've let mom and dad use me as a weapon against you. I've participated in making you feel less than. And I'm sorry." We talked for 3 hours. Really talked. Maybe for the first time in our lives. He told me about the pressure he felt, the constant fear of falling from his pedestal, the way our parents' love felt conditional on his continued success. I told him about the loneliness, the invisibility, the years of trying to earn approval that would never come. "Are you going to forgive them?" he asked finally. "I don't know," I said honestly. "They hurt me for a long time. And even now, Dad's emails are about reputation management, not actually dealing with what they did." "Mom's a mess," Preston said. "She's going to therapy. Actually talking about her own childhood, how her parents treated her. Apparently, generational trauma is a thing. That doesn't excuse it." "No," he agreed. "But maybe it explains it. And maybe," he hesitated, "maybe we can break the cycle. Have a different relationship than they modeled for us." I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "I'd like that." My mother and I eventually had coffee too, months later. She apologized, cried, tried to explain. I listened. I didn't forgive her. Not entirely, not yet. But I opened the door to possibility. My father and I haven't spoken. He sent one email through his lawyer, asking me to sign a non-disclosure agreement about family matters. I had my lawyer respond with a single word: "No, the Sterling Foundation continues its work." I've written 2 more books, both bestsellers. I still live in Brooklyn, still write in coffee shops, still value substance over status. But now, when I go to family events, the few I choose to attend, I'm not invisible anymore. Not because I'm VC, Sterling, famous author, but because I finally learned to see myself, with or without their recognition. That's the thing about revenge. Real revenge isn't about hurting the people who hurt you. It's about becoming so completely yourself that their opinion of you becomes irrelevant. My parents banned me from their elite party because they were ashamed of me, their guests. Discovered my secret that I'd been successful all along, in ways they'd never bothered to notice. But the real secret, the one that set me free, was simpler. I didn't need them to be proud of me. I just needed to be proud of myself. And finally, after 28 years, I was.